Welcome, everyone, to the Wave Breaker podcast, brought to you by the Center of Excellence for Marine Manufacturing and Technology. Find out more about our work at washingtonmaritimecareers.org. I'm Ann Avery with the Center of Excellence, and it is my pleasure today to welcome Savannah Smith and Ebony Welborn, founders of Sea Potential. In addition to being entrepreneurs, Savannah and Ebony are emerging leaders in the maritime industry. You can learn more about Sea Potential by going to their website, letsseepotential.com, letsseepotential.com. Savannah and Ebony, welcome, and thank you for spending some time with us today.
Hello, for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I'm excited to have a conversation with you, so let's get going. I think the first question naturally is sharing a little bit with us about Sea Potential, what it is and what it does.
Yeah, Sea Potential was inspired by our own lived experiences. I can share a little bit more about my own. I was born and raised in the South. I spent a lot of time outdoors because I was in a very, very small rural community where much of it was just playing with the natural environment alongside my brother. And so doing that, I kind of grew passionate about the natural environment, and knew that was something that I felt called to protect or want to do more with, but really didn't have the opportunity until going to college, which is where I was able to take classes and courses around that passion and realized that that's something I actually wanted to pursue as a career. And so between figuring out that passion was for real, I was able to do different internships after graduating college, but ended up meeting Savannah at my last one, or our last one, which was doing restoration field work here in Seattle, Washington, which is where we realized we had a shared vision for Sea Potential. But I'll let Savannah share a little bit more about her background before I get into what Sea Potential is now.
Thanks, Ebony. So I'm Savannah. I wasn't born. I was raised in Renton, Washington, in an animal-loving home. So animals ranging from hermit crabs to peacocks is what I was growing up with, and it really just fostered that initial love and curiosity for the environment. I found a particular interest in the ocean, like early on in second grade, by checking out books in the library, and somebody told me I should be a marine biologist someday. So I kind of just took that and ran with it, even though I didn't know any marine biologists or any people in a maritime type of job, especially someone that looked at like me. But somebody told me I could do it, so that's what I did. I went to college to pursue that, and it was there that I really faced imposter syndrome and noticed the things that I felt like made me special or weren't as much of a topic of conversation in my communities growing up, were really nonchalantly experienced by my peers. And so that's kind of where that initial spark for wanting to start Sea Potential kind of lied. But it wasn't until after graduating and meeting Ebony and realizing that we had these shared experiences as Black women interested in marine science. Although we grew up on different ends of the country, we had these shared experiences. So we realized maybe this is something bigger and we could do something about it. So ultimately, we decided on Sea Potential's mission of cultivating a full cycle of BIPOC representation in maritime, which we define as any career path connected to water. So we have two main tracks, one of them being youth engagement, helping youth foster heart-based connections to water by acknowledging some of the individual and generational trauma that exists, incorporating tools for healing, creating more positive experiences around water and community, and doing some maritime career exposure programming. And then the other side is more consulting work within the industry, promoting representation over assimilation, supporting cross-cultural communication, and overall helping them strengthen relationships within community.
I think that's fantastic. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that both of you, in addition to being emerging leaders in the industry, really are pioneering a different way to approach the industry and have a conversation and engagement with youth, which is awesome. And I think that really kind of leads me to the next question about what inspired you. You've spoken about that a little bit, but I'd like you to expand on it a bit more if you would. What inspired you to take this leap into the industry and start your own business?
Yeah, I can speak for myself. I think, yeah, just having those experiences going through the industry and realizing the weight that it carried with it. I myself was trying to figure out how I can navigate that moving forward. And then like having an experience at Earth Core where I was the first time that I wasn't the only person of color in the spaces that I were in. It just felt so relieving that it felt like a natural on a natural transition to when See Potential was providing opportunities, that it would be opportunity that there would be more people that felt, looked, and had similar experiences around them to provide that level of safety. So I think that was a natural response to why we created See Potential, is to create that community. But another part for Maritime is just that when we were doing our market research, we were more so just focused on marine science because that's both of our backgrounds and our interests. But realizing that maritime industry was a huge thing here, it felt like a natural thing to bring into this aquatic embodiment, these aquatic experiences that See Potential was already trying to offer. And on top of that, realizing that the jobs are really cool. I mean, there's so much variation in maritime, you all know. There's so much variation. But the fact that the jobs are really cool and they were providing high paying opportunities, it felt like something that we really wanted to bring into our communities as we saw that it wasn't something being talked about.
And I agree with everything Ebony is saying, of course. And then just backtracking a little bit on like personally how I felt like I was able to take that leap of like starting a business because, you know, we didn't have business backgrounds. I went to school for marine biology. Like I never imagined myself starting a business. But I think what kind of led up to that was one, as I mentioned, that imposter syndrome in college and not wanting to experience that throughout my career. Then there was the Black Lives Matter movement of 2020, where we were in our environmental restoration jobs and really just feeling the weight of feeling like we weren't giving back to community in a meaningful way, especially one that aligned with my own like passions. So I keep saying we, I'm like, let me not speak for everybody, even though our stories are sometimes similar. But yeah, I just wasn't feeling fulfilled in what I was doing. And then we were in a AmeriCorps position and that term was ending. And, you know, it was a global pandemic. Nobody kind of knew what was next. So it made it a little less fearsome of like, everybody's trying to figure it out right now. And then I think just that part of having a co-founder and having like a best friend with the shared vision and like supporting me and like these conversations of we could do this. So ultimately we just made the jump and we figured if we fail in 3 months, you know, we fail. It's whatever, it's COVID, but it's been successful. So it's been nice.
Well, and, you know, and having the courage, because it takes some courage to take that leap of faith and start your own business is never easy. But I think that it's for that reason, your story is very inspirational and you're talking about some big themes here. And can you talk a little bit more about, you know, as you're working with community and that sense of belonging, do you have anybody mentoring you, you know, as you are becoming young women business owners? I mean, you've already become that. You're already entrepreneurs. Any're thinking about your next steps. How are you finding any mentorship in that space? You know, anyone or any groups saying, hey, this is great, keep going?
Yeah, we had mentors in the beginning, which was nice. More so we were in our developmental phase, and so we were able to do a certificate program about entrepreneurship, which had a phenomenal woman leader and also creator of the workshop itself or the certification itself. That was really supportive with us as we figured out how to define what we were actually saying. Like we had the idea, but how to articulate that well and get that buy-in. She was really supportive in helping us do that. And then we had this other mentor that we met in Tacoma. She was a DEI consultant or is a DEI consultant and was really helpful. She's a Black woman herself and like helping us show up authentically in the spaces. Even we have this passion, right? And it's not necessarily a huge topic of conversation within Maritime, or sometimes it's not as well received. So as we were trying to figure out how to articulate this, she just kept pushing us to be our authentic selves in the space, and like that will make room for what we're trying to do. And so I look back to them, and I say look back because we don't necessarily have that like mentorship relationship right now, but I look back to them and the support that they gave us so early on. So I really appreciate that. And then I'll let Savannah talk too, but like right now I think it's just community, like community always hyping us up, like showing up for our events, like giving us resources, whether that just be sharing the word or those small comments in our Instagram sections, like all of that is fueling me to keep going. So
Yeah. Mentorship has been interesting because we definitely have a lot of people rooting for us in our corner. Sometimes it's hard to meet consistently with some of the leaders in the space we admire because they're really busy doing the work and we're really busy doing the work. But when we do connect, they're always fruitful conversations. I would say I have a lot of like indirect mentors though, just people I observe when we go to workshops ourselves. I observe their facilitation style and take away things that I admire or want to like think deeper about or workshop for myself and incorporate into my own like toolbox. And I think I can speak for Ebony and I both when I say that we find nature and like water itself as a mentor too, and really learn from like the characteristics of how everything is interconnected and interacts with each other, and try to incorporate that into how we interact with people and create our curriculum.
Savannah, I love the way you just said that, and that is so absolutely true. And Ebony, you brought up an important point a moment or two ago about the maritime industry being this big, broad ecosystem, everything from marine science and oceanography to welding and logistics, everything. It's a full alphabet soup of occupations and career pathways. And as you're looking at this industry and you yourselves learning more about it, and I should say too that I think one of the most interesting things about the maritime industry is the concept that we'll never know everything there is to know about it. It's constantly moving and always evolving, which is, I think, part of the fun with it. But as you look at this big ecosystem, can you take a moment and share some of the challenges that you all either have faced or do face now, and talk more about what inspires and motivates you in your work?
Yeah, I'll say just to begin with, one of the biggest challenges that we face is surely that point about it being a very big, broad ecosystem. Again, me and Savannah came from more marine science backgrounds. That was where our interest laid. And so when saying that, hey, we were actually going to consider maritime and like share that with community, that meant we also had to learn more about it as well. And so in our setup now, we are consistently learning as we go to also share these opportunities with the community, which can be, exhausting sometimes, but definitely well worth it to share all the opportunities that exist within maritime. But yeah, definitely a challenge.
Yeah, which is, the work that y'all are doing in that development of the Washington Maritime Careers website has been something we use a lot and like has been really helpful in understanding the landscape because the information was all dispersed and outdated, and resources like that are really helpful for us to learn from and bring back to community. But I would say some other challenges we see are like reflected in our blog post that we wrote too, of like that challenge of recruitment. Sometimes people approach us and just think that, oh, you're BIPOC org, give us BIPOC people, and failing to realize that there's a lot more work that needs to be done in a workplace culture aspect to support like retention and true support of people long term. So that's something we encounter a little bit in our consulting work. And just in general, we've received some negative backlash on certain things about events or programming being BIPOC specific. Received some threats over that a couple of years ago, and things like that we try to brush off, or microaggressions or just blatant disrespect sometimes at certain events. there was a time we were speaking to somebody who was kind of revered in the space, and they literally kind of were looking past us and said, "Oh, you look important," and walked over to talk to somebody else. So moments like that sometimes are challenging, but I think it's also moments like that I appreciate having a co-founder and having a team that like really gets what our mission is and we can support each other.
Sometimes when you're facing adversity or a lack of support, it can be really difficult to sort of rally yourself and say, I'm just going to push forward. And so you're bringing up some really important things because you're both young women. You're both young women of color. You're both emerging leaders. And this is kind of a sensitive area, but I'd like to get into it if you all will go on this journey with me for just a couple of moments. When you're being dismissed or when you're being perceived as, oh, there are two young women of color, we can have them in our meeting and tick a box. And I'm not trying to be cynical, but you're saying it. I mean, that does sometimes happen, which is really unfortunate. How do you dig deep in that moment and think, you know what, I'm going to keep going. You're going to be you, whoever that is in that moment. But how do you dig deep within yourselves to say, I'm not going to let you discourage me. I'm not going to let you throw me off my path. I've got a vision and I'm going to keep going. How do you kind of help each other as a team, kind of pick yourselves up and keep marching down the field? Because that's not always easy to do.
Yeah. When I would say thank you for acknowledging what Savannah said and like bringing that back into the space. Appreciate that because acknowledgement can go a long way for us for sure. But I think the inspiration was kind of what Savannah was saying, or like in those moments, like being able to look to each other and be like, that was crazy, right? Like, and be like, yeah, that was crazy. And I don't know, even a little bit of, I don't know how explicit it's supposed to be, but like shit talking could be nice, just like to ourselves about the situation makes it feel a little bit lighter in those moments. But I feel like for me, knowing that we have created spaces where we feel safe and like heard, and that I might have this moment right now, but I know what I'm going to go back to can feel so uplifting for me, where I know, some people don't have that experience where they can go back into another space and like show up authentically or like share these concerns or, have those moments of shit talking. So I feel like just knowing that I can go back to that just feels really inspiring to me and motivates me. And then thinking about the future of Maritime, because like we like to say, like, hopefully it's more diverse than it is now. And with that new diversity, there's going to be so much innovation, so many things that we have not seen yet. And so looking towards that goal of knowing that it will not be like this forever is something that keeps me going.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. And I think in having our own organization, it's when things like that happen, it's one affirming for why we do what we do. And I think we can use it as fuel to continue creating change. We're existing in a larger system, but versus somebody else who might just be an employee in a place with a non-supportive workplace culture or facing discrimination like directly from their bosses and stuff, that can be a totally different situation. But we get to kind of go back and ideate and create different consulting frameworks and kind of approach people with our feedback with confidence, knowing that we're doing something to create change. And I think just the inspiration that we get from the youth and from community, knowing that people are getting more connected to water and just seeing that firsthand is exciting and enough encouragement to keep doing what we're doing. But yeah, I can't deny that it is hard sometimes and it does weigh on me sometimes.
Yeah, it's hard to be a pioneer. It really is. It's difficult to be that sort of forward trajectory of the future because not everybody supports that. But to kind of bring this around full circle a little bit, it's also very cool that you're pioneers. It's also very cool that you represent that forward trajectory. So before I ask you the infamous "where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years" question, can you also share and reflect for a moment about something that happens in your work that really excites you about moving forward?
I feel like there's a few things. One, I think of like when it comes to our youth, just seeing the joy on their faces when they're having a new experience, um, just makes it feel like really worthwhile and I don't know, and like fulfilling to me to be like, oh, that was really cool. Like I did this. I'm gonna go share that with my family. And I think on the other side, when it comes to more of our consulting work, to see folks like be vulnerable in a space and ask questions so that they can grow, to see people, particularly adults, having conversations about where they want to improve, how they can improve with their teammates in this space. Like that feels really fulfilling when that message or those like opportunities to learn are well received.
Yeah, I think we say a lot to people in general, like when they enjoy our field trips or our events, like, yeah, this is fun. We try to create things that we think are fun too. So partially the inspiration and motivation comes from like finding unique opportunities that are exciting for us, and then getting to see that excitement for other folks as well. Like Ebony was saying, seeing it in the youth, and I think for me, seeing that direct, like generational pass of information or experiences is really exciting for me. So this past Saturday, like we had a boating field trip, and at the end of the program, one of the youth was like, "Oh, it's my aunt's birthday tomorrow. I want to come back here tomorrow and bring her on a boat and like drive the boat for her." And that was super exciting to hear because it's something that they might not have done as a family before. So you can see that there's new connections being made outside of just a career aspect, just more connections to maritime in a recreational sense or water overall. So moments like that are always inspiring. And I think, yeah, ideating with the team, ideating with like-minded partners that we have is always really exciting as well, because it's like, what more can we do? What more can we create together?
That's absolutely awesome. It's fantastic. And fun should always be part of our work. That's a requirement. And
Yeah.
that should be in everybody's mission and vision statements too, but that's only my personal opinion. As you all are looking ahead and thinking about where you want to go professionally and with sea potential, looking ahead 3, maybe 5 years, where do you see yourselves? Do you have a point on the map where you want to be? Have you thought about that? And where would you like sea potential to be?
Yeah, to be honest, we have been thinking about it, and I can tell you we don't have a clear answer at the moment. Something that we're really excited going in 2024 about is having a strategic planner help us kind of get our ideas on paper and like create a plan to make it happen. But I can say for myself that I am really excited to hopefully in the next 3 or 5 years have a larger team. We do a lot of stuff and probably too much stuff, to be honest. And so I'm looking forward to having a larger team where we can continue to co-create, to share the workload, and again, create that safe space that we can always continue to rely on.
Yeah. One thing about us is we have like a million ideas all the time when we're always trying to do too much. So the strategic planner is really exciting to help us hone in that vision. But I think some smaller scale things, like everybody said, growing our team, having more consecutive programs of like the 12 to 14-year-old programs and the 15 to 18-year-old programs running at the same time or the same type of program, so we don't have to split it up and have the youth kind of disconnected throughout the year. It can be more fluid. And then having a building or physical space. I don't know if that's too lofty of a goal for 5 years, but that would be very nice where we could actually host community events and programming. That would be amazing.
Well, if you don't set big goals, you can't meet them. So I think it's great having a space, expanding your program, growing your team, and having lots of ideas. Being really creative and thinking of new things. Maybe you won't do all of those things, but having those, rolling around in your minds is really, really important, because otherwise you'll never get from A to B. So I applaud that. Think as big as you can. That's what makes the big impact. So it'll be fun to watch that journey and see where you all are going to go.
I will say we do have if you want to say a little bigger, long-term goal of being international, just because we recognize the importance of this work like across the world. And so I'll put that out there. So if anyone wants to support that long-term goal.
Our biggest goal. And for those sentiments.
Well, and you know what? You can do it. That's the thing. And now you've put that out into the universe. So you will find a way to make that happen. And I think it's entirely possible, because the maritime industry is not confined just to Washington State. It is an international industry and an international workforce. And it is a big connected ecosystem. Sometimes I think if you're not in the industry, it may be hard to see, but it really is. And in Washington State, we've got everybody from the entire world coming here to do work, and we've got people in our state going out into the international sphere to do work as well. So the global concept, Ebony, is absolutely right on track, and it'll be fun to watch you all achieve that goal.
Oh, thank you.
So as always, we never have enough time. I could talk the two of you for a couple of hours and have a lot of fun doing it. I want to thank you both so much for being with us today. And a couple of reminders for everybody. Be sure to check out the See Potential Wavebreaker blog posts at WashingtonMaritimeCareers.org. And don't forget to go to the See Potential site, letsseepotential.com. That's 3 words, letsseepotential.com, to learn more about Ebony and Savannah's awesome work. And don't forget to sign up for the See Potential newsletter on the site as well. So Savannah and Ebony, before we close, any final thoughts from you all today?
I would share that our website is under redevelopment, so we're going to have a new functional, just better website and general resources, hopefully by the start of the new year. So look forward to that. If you check out our website, know that it's improving. And other than that, just a big thank you to you, Ann and Kim, for opening up this platform to us and being big supporters of our work.
And I'd like to say, if you are curious to learn more, like directly from talking to us, or if you have ideas of what you want to see in your industry, because again, like we're still learning about all the different industries that exist, feel free to reach out to us via the website. Set up a time to have a conversation. We would love to chat and get your thoughts.
All right, well, we'll close it out. Savannah and Ebony, thank you again so much. And we are literally talking with 2 young women that are emerging leaders. So they're going to be on your radar. So make sure you write their names down, because you will be definitely hearing more from them in the future. So again, thank you so much for being here with us today. And I hope we can do another podcast sometime in the future with you all.